to it earlier in the day. So though it's published now as the final, and nothing's changing.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you want to kind of like walk us through that a little bit and we can discuss it further and kind of get into the meat of it, that'd be really cool. The article is in Medium again, and it's called "Should President Trump Be Impeached?" So make your case for this, man, because I haven't had this conversation in a while, and I had it. My friend Jason Carney, who started the Facebook group Veterans for the 99%, which is now People for the 99%, he is also pro impeachment, but I don't think he specifically had. Aside from emoluments, he definitely didn't have the totality of your argument.
Okay. Well, I've done a lot of thinking on it, and I come at it from a bunch of different perspectives. And I guess my first point of view is I feel like a lot of people either they don't understand exactly what impeachment is, or they have misconceptions, or I just felt like I wanted to kind of lay out the overall history first off before even getting into any of the topics and everything that everybody's thinking about today. I wanted to first just lay down the history so we can all understand what was the stated intentions, what was their purpose in having impeachment in the first place, the dangers, the things which they worried about. And then each time where impeachment happened in this country, and then the results, or even one of the situation like where I go into with Nixon. Nixon wasn't impeached, but he's technically falls up under that impeachment case because if he did not resign, he was going to be impeached. Yeah, I mean, his majority speaker, on the Republican side, walked literally to the White House and told him, if you do not resign, you will be impeached and you will be removed. And so he didn't have a choice. So you can say, oh, he didn't get impeached, but technically he definitely would have been impeached.
Right.
So where I start with is going back to the very, very early history, and it actually starts from British law. And this goes all the way back to the late 1300s. And in 1373, there was a royal figure. I'll let you guys, if you guys decide to read it later on, you'll be able to get into all those details. But a royal figure, which they decided to bring up on impeachment for a whole laundry list of charges, which some of them were corruption, bribery, and all the way up to stealing castles and selling castles and all kind of other stuff. And so they brought him up on impeachment. He was actually convicted of impeachment. He was removed from office. In this case, which is different from the American version, he was actually imprisoned, which the American version of impeachment is only against your position. It's only taking you out of the office. It has nothing, even if you were brought up on murder, impeachment could not put charges towards you. That would have to go through the regular legal systems in whatever jurisdictions which you fall up under. It's just impeachment is just an act of, the first part, which starts in the House, is the inquiry part. So that they explain that this is to look up if there is an actual reason to impeach you in the first place. So this is just to look up an investigation. So an inquiry is, hey, if we keep hearing all this weird stuff, maybe we should investigate. And if there's enough, things that give you question or pause, then yeah, you have justification to investigate it. And that's basically the gist of the impeachment. Where it gets mixed up, I feel, is the second part. The second part is the vote and removal. That part is which gets all twisted around and political all the time, because you can impeach somebody for inquiry, find out, okay, well, there's nothing there, or the evidence we have is not strong enough for a case, so we have to let it go. And then you don't have to do a vote for impeachment, it all goes away. But if you have those grounds, then of course you go all the way to the point of a conviction vote, which the Supreme Court justice will be the one who officiates, not the Senate Majority Leader, like some people think. So they think, oh, well, the Republicans won't be holding the hearing. the Supreme Court, they take over those duties of it. And so it's going to be officiated through their lens, not through one side specifically or the other. Now, both sides will be able to argue their different cases on defense and prosecution on why they feel these charges fit and why it's grounds for removal. And then the vote process will come in. And so I first started off going through Andrew Johnson and breaking through the history of what brought him to impeachment.
Right.
And he was short basically one vote in his impeachment vote, and that was the very first case. And I wanted to really focus, even though I broke down even Clinton's case, I wanted to focus mostly on those two applying with the current situation with the president, because a lot of leadership right now in the Democratic Party is looking at it from poll testing and trying to decide through a political lens which strategy is the right strategy to go with. The problem with that whole argument from my perspective is, being a veteran and being proud to serve my country, I don't look at it through a strategy. I look at it right and wrong. If I was a police officer and I watch you break the law, I'm going to arrest you. I'm not going to decide, oh, well, this person's connected to this person and it might not stick. I'm just going to arrest you. And so I guess from my perspective, I look at it from a very simplistic lens. If there's grounds to go against you for a crime or misdemeanors or high crimes and misdemeanors in the case of elected officials, then I think you should press it, no matter which party it is, no matter if it's the president, no matter if it's somebody like the Attorney General, Bill Barr. I feel that there's plenty of grounds for impeachment on him also, and other members. But that's a whole nother argument. The politics of that start getting a little tricky. But I mean, there's grounds for impeachment on a good number of people if you really wanted to go there. It's just a matter
I
of
agree with that 100%. The thing that the thing that the thing that I have to say about this though is that that Nancy Pelosi doesn't utter a sentence without being told what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was not the political will, but the need to have impeachment hearings take place,
Mm-hmm.
they would have already taken place, or they will take place at a time that is deemed most painful to Donald Trump. So let's say the economy hasn't collapsed yet,
Mm-hmm.
and they've already rigged the primary,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Elizabeth Warren or CIAP.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting their asses kicked, just getting their fucking shit stomped in, and nothing they can say or do will get them into the office. Impeachment hearings, maybe a full impeachment conviction, impeachment passing the House is pretty much guaranteed if there's a need for it. But I think that the consultants in the DNC know that they're going to rig a primary, that a financial collapse is going to happen right around the same time as the two parties' conventions, and that the country will blame Donald Trump, and whatever empty suit corporate warmonger happens to have gotten a stolen nomination will, based off of that, carry them barely into the Oval Office and back into the good arms and good graces of the CIA.
See, one thing that I feel that they miss in that whole little assessment there is Donald Trump. You can look at numerous tweets that he's done over the years, and from the assessment that I get, he believes that if a president's in trouble, well, just go to war. I mean, he's tweeted that before about Bush in years past. He's tweeted that about Obama. And so I look at a lot of what President Trump does as projection. And so if he's saying it about other people, if he's in that same situation, it's more than likely that he would do that. And with all this stuff firing up with Iran right now, the economy goes south. The American people a lot of times are going to stick with the president who's in power instead of taking the chance on a new president if we're already embattled in some kind of war footing. And
Except
we're
for
pushing
when, okay,
one
so I
thing.
know you don't have, I'm sorry to cut you off here, man, but I know you
No, no,
rarely
no,
have
you're great.
an economic collapse during a war. But we've been at war for 18 straight years with an economic collapse in the middle of it. And we started bombing all kinds of brand new countries. And the only thing that happened was the income inequality grew. So I don't, again, man, like Donald Trump, you're
But
right.
there's but there's one thing you're missing, Steve. One thing you're
What
missing. I got to cut you off there. One thing you're missing is the other, with all the other stuff that's been going on. What did the media do when all these different wars have popped up? How much have you heard about it in the media and mainstream media?
Yeah, but
Nothing.
look, man, you
The
know that the
difference
people
the
aren't
difference
buying
with
it.
this one is the difference is this one, they will blast it through every single media outlet and it will be covered nonstop. Like this is right after 9/11 all over again. Because I hate to say this and think so cynically of our government, but you put American troops over there, it's easy for an accident to happen. And Americans are not going to stand by and watch our troops in harm's way. So if one of our troops gets injured, maimed, harmed in any kind of way, in which I thought this before, which I'll give a shout out to Nico House because I heard him make this point before. If that happened, it'd be easy for the media to spin that and have the American people up in arms and ready to go over there and support Donald Trump.
Maybe, maybe. I know that what is generally considered liberal media would be 100% behind, they're only behind Donald Trump when he's bombing someone or when he's, you know, threatening to bomb someone. That's the only time he gets favorable coverage on MSNBC is if he wants to fucking murder some brown people. They're like, cool, we're down.
Then you see people like Chris Coons hop on there, and then all of a sudden he's perfectly fine with everything Donald Trump's doing, even though he's said himself that he thinks Donald Trump is a habitual liar and he makes up everything and you can't trust him. But yes, trust him with war.
Well, that's the game. That's the game because when it's said and done, Chris Coons knows that the position of president is one of the most solitary and isolated and misunderstood yes men on the face of the fucking planet. Donald Trump, whatever his fucking whenever he tries to legislate by tweet or goes off script at an event, he immediately gets smacked down by all of his generals, all of his advisors, all of his cabinet, most, if not all of his party, and the money. The money tells him, no, you can't do that. And so Chris Coons knows that Donald Trump is playing a part. Donald Trump knows that Chris Coons is playing a part. Donald Trump, coming from a theater background as he does, what with his WWE Hall of Fame status and his I've been in fucking 15 or 20 movies and I hosted a game show on NBC for like years and years and years. The guy knows stage
like 15 years,
yeah, the guy knows optics. He knows how to be a character really well. He's been playing a character most of his life.
Yeah.
Now, I do understand that the man is in some cognitive decline. And I think that removing him, he gets impeached if he goes to a second term. I'll give you that.
Oh yeah.
If he
Oh
gets
yeah.
the second term, he gets inaugurated with full impeachment in the House. That's how his first day on the job goes. Is the House, you know.
And that's the messed up part about it, because that's where my feelings are going to be completely mixed at that point.
Right.
I'm like, this man has more than enough stuff for you to start an official inquiry. And you know what? And like I tweeted out the other day, I said, if it's me, I'm preparing the handcuffs and shackles, because you want to ignore my subpoenas. I'm throwing people in jail. I'm not playing this crap. You're not the president. Some of these other assistant, interior cabinet members, you don't have that same power, and you're not gonna play this game. And you start throwing a couple of them in jail, like somebody like Wilbur Ross, or you start hitting them with $100,000 fines for every day they don't show up. I guarantee you'll start making a move. But the difference is Nancy Pelosi is scared to play hardball. You tell me, if this was on the other side and this was Kevin McCarthy, that he would slow down an inch on any of this stuff. He would be throwing Democrats in jail in a heartbeat.
Well, and that's and again, that's also the game, because with impeachment proceedings, it disconnects you from the office that protects you. And if you're a low-level government weasel, you don't always have those protections. You're not afforded as many privileges as the president. And then you're open to criminal charges.
Yep.
When you get criminal charges, you get pardoned, if not by the administration in power, by the following administration, or by the vice president that becomes president through the impeachment process. And then you can get a job again 15 or 20 years later in another administration, and they'll let you destabilize Venezuela.
That's true.
I know.
And that's why it's great to consider me. I consider myself also, I call myself the broke man's philosopher, because I'm not poor, you're only poor as a state of mind. So, my mindset is, this is just what I think is right. And I think that if you were maintaining the rules and regulations and standards of office, you would start holding these people accountable, and they wouldn't be able to get back in. And so, along with impeachment, would require that newer standard of handling things, which I don't at all see that or believe that reality. I'm not that delusional, but that's just my stance on it. I know that it's not going to move anything. And the reason why I say I'm mixed, as far as if they waited till right after, then it's exactly the same situation that the Republicans fell into with Bill Clinton, because it's politics. It's pure politics at that point. They were doing it right because there's a run up to an election. They had been investigating the whole, 6 years before that on everything they could look for. And they couldn't either he didn't do anything, or they couldn't find the right evidence to stick, but they just kept trying and trying and trying and trying. And so when they finally got, the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, they were like, yeah, we finally got something. And it came across political. And people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they see, well, Al Gore lost. And so that means that impeachment obviously benefited the Republicans. And what I think that they're missing in that whole thing is the fact that how many the Republicans lost a lot of seats. They lost a lot of seats in the Congress, and in the House.
No, they didn't. That's not true.
They kept their majority. They kept their majority, but they lost seats.
They didn't lose power
I'm not saying that they lost.
2006, though.
No. I give you that, because they got down to a 50-50, and then they had the vice president. So they had, when Cheney, that's when they brought in the nuclear option, and he should start passing all the laws through 5150. But if she looks at it the proper way, they still had the power because they had that little bit of advantage, and all the suppression that was going on. when you go back to Florida and you look at the hanging chads and all the stuff with Jeb Bush and Catherine Harris,
So about
it was
that,
obvious what was going on.
There's a guy who's been on the show before, who goes by Carlos Tierra. He's on Twitter on a different name. I'll hip you to him. He lives in LA, and he was a script writer at out of an office. And the guy who owned the office was contracted by the DNC. Like, that's part of what this office did. And the guy who ran the office, who runs the office, knew that my friend Los was an organizer for the Bernie Sanders campaign. He hid that fact from all of his coworkers, but his boss kind of got a kick out of it because he put him in charge of writing the 4 acceptance speeches for the 4 different here's you 4 get the roses, and then we figure out who the bachelor is. Like, it was that Tim Kaine, Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Gillum, and fucking I can't goddamn remember who the 4th person was. There's a group of writers that call themselves WAG, the Writers and Artists Guild, and they produce content for Democratic members of the House and the Senate. So when you see those fiery speeches that they give when they're grilling CEOs, some of that is straight up Hollywood produced content, brother. And that's what he did for a fucking living. And during this time, his boss starts telling him what really happened in Florida. And this is